Okay, welcome everyone. We're doing a deep dive today, looking at the source material you sent us on, well, something called crypto nations.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating concept popping up in these sources, this idea of building entire countries almost from scratch.
Exactly. Countries outside the usual systems. Maybe no taxes, no borders in the traditional sense, no politicians, all supposedly running on the blockchain.
It sounds almost sci-fi, doesn't it?
It really does. So our mission today, based on your sources, is to unpack this. What are these crypto nations? Why are people actually trying to build them?
And we should look at the specific examples mentioned, definitely.
Yeah.
And crucially, the big questions and criticisms that the material raises too.
Right, because the core idea here, which the sources really hammer home, is this concept of a country you actively subscribe to.
Rather than just inheriting citizenship based on where you happen to be born, that's the real hook, isn't it?
It is. And the sources frame this as being driven by, well, tech enthusiasts, people with significant capital.
Billionaires even. Folks actively trying to build these micronations basically from zero.
And the engine behind it, as the material describes it, is code, consensus mechanisms on the blockchain, and capital. The aim seems to be replacing traditional government structures.
It's presented as a pretty fundamental shift, and the sources are quite clear on the why.
Yeah, what's driving this? The motivation seems rooted in frustration, right?
Absolutely. Frustration with, red tape, bureaucracy, governments that just don't seem to move fast enough for the tech world.
So for these builders, blockchain isn't just crypto coins, it's a potential foundation for a whole new type of governance.
Exactly. The sources talk about using smart contracts instead of, say, politicians for certain functions. Yeah. Using DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, instead of traditional voting system.
Right, and digital identity systems instead of physical passports and the like. That vision of automated rules, community governance through token holders, that seems key.
It's how they imagine running things without that traditional political layer.
Okay, so let's get specific. The sources mention a few examples. That helps make it more concrete.
Definitely. One is Liberland, that patch of land between Serbia and Croatia.
Right. The material says it offers e-residency, maybe even citizenship tied to crypto contributions.
And it reportedly holds its treasury in Bitcoin, aims for a blockchain constitution, making the rules sort of transparent and hard to change.
Okay, and then there's Satoshi Island in Vanuatu.
Yeah, that one aims to be a decentralized hub. The sources talk about tokenized land ownership.
Meaning like digital tokens represent owning a piece of the island and maybe give you voting rights.
Potentially, yeah. Decisions possibly made by NFT holders associated with the project. It's quite out there.
And one more concept the sources highlight is Balaji Srinivasan's network state. That's a bit different, isn't it?
It is. It starts digital first. An online community that pools resources, builds influence, and then maybe aims for physical land and recognition.
So again, this idea of a nation you join voluntarily.
It's a powerful concept, using these new tools. But look, the sources you shared are very clear. This stuff faces serious criticism.
Absolutely. A big one presented is that these are just, well, playgrounds for the rich.
Or, as one source colorfully puts it, libertarian Disneyland. The critique being it's all about financial freedom, maybe ignoring the messy reality of public services, welfare, things nations provide.
And the sources detail some tough questions critics are asking, like who actually gets to join these places? Is it just based on capital?
And who enforces the rules?
Yeah.
If it's all code, what happens when you need, actual enforcement? No traditional police, no courts.
Yeah, and the starkest concern raised in the material seems to be, what if it goes wrong?
The sources mention critics worrying about a kind of Lord of the Flies with Wi-Fi scenario.
Wow. Okay, so serious concerns about security, dispute resolution, just basic order in a system built mainly on code and voluntary agreement.
Exactly. So despite all these questions, all this criticism laid out in the sources, the movement itself is still presented as, well, growing.
It seems framed as a deliberate choice. People opting out of systems they see as broken or too slow, trying to build alternatives.
Right. Less an escape, maybe, and more an attempt at replacement. Using tech to redefine what a country even means.
Which brings us back to your sources and the bigger picture. This isn't just some niche tech thing. It challenges fundamental ideas about nations, borders, governance.
It really does.
And the final thought your sources leave us with, something for you to think about, is this. As these ideas evolve, maybe the next time someone asks where you're from,
You might not name a place on a map.
you might just say, I'm from the blockchain.
A provocative thought to end on.
Indeed. Thank you for sharing these really interesting sources and letting us take this deep dive with you today.